Becoming a mother was probably mentally and spiritually one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. And I felt guilty for a really long time because so many women are like, it was easy for me. It's a transition. I wanted to be a mother my entire life. And that wasn't the case for me. I didn't know if I was going to become a mom, but I did. I became a mom and I love my daughter. She is such a brilliant human, and I'm honored that she chose me to be her mom, but that did not change the mental and spiritual struggle of the transition that I was facing. And it took me a while to understand why, but I know now. There was a point where I didn't want to let go of my old self. And my old self and the version of myself that I'm working to become were at war, still at war, because that old self, before I was a mom, she didn't have a place anymore. She was dying. And instead of grieving, instead of working to let go of that version of her, I was trying to fight for some reason to keep her around. I did myself a disservice because I wasn't doing the shadow work around becoming a mom. I was on autopilot. I was in survival mode. I'm sure there was a little bit of postpartum in there somewhere, but ultimately I was not holding myself accountable and creating a container to usher in this new version of me that deserved space. I thought that I could maintain both, and it's just impossible. So it's no wonder that eventually things came to a head in many areas of my life. But the biggest thing is me completely losing myself and then victimizing myself and feeling sorry for myself and moping and not alchemizing that energy into fuel. But above all, I just think I know that the old version of me, before becoming a mom, before being pregnant, as much as I love her and think she's so badass and so cool, needed to be mourned. I needed to just be sad and let go, and I just didn't want to. There's versions of ourselves as we grow and experience life that are always going to die out. It's like shedding old skin. It's letting go of old narratives because we don't have a choice. Life comes at you fast. Experiences happen whether you want them to or not, and it's our job to give ourselves the space and the tools to adjust in the healthiest way possible. I realize now that the work wasn't in trying to integrate my old self into this new timeline, into this new narrative, but it's my job to usher in this new version of myself into this higher timeline. And that can't happen if I'm holding on to old versions of me that don't have the capacity to hold the bigger, abundant blessings that I have called in. Healing is so heavy. It's so nuanced. It's so personal. And no one can walk this journey but yourself. But there are tools like this guy that is a Bible that I have not cracked open in years. There are books, there are videos, there are preachers, there are shamans who have the power and the tools to offer perspective that we may not have seen before or don't have the capability to see for ourselves, because the mind is such a powerful thing, and it will fully subscribe and believe whatever narrative that you tell it every single day. And for months, I was subscribing to the notion that I'm a victim to my circumstances. And it almost grew, I'm not even gonna lie, it grew to resentment. I wanted my old life back. I wanted my freedom back. And My delusion was fighting my reality. My old self was at war, with this new version of me that's trying to break through. And that requires doing heavy shadow work, heavy reflection, homework of going within, asking myself bigger questions, and redefining who I am and what I want and what that looks like. And that requires me to dig deep and be expansive. And all of the old behavioral patterns show up. I want to run away. I want to repress and regress and comfort because I want to go back to what's familiar, to what I know, instead of rising to the occasion, digging deep, and just ushering in this new chapter of my life. It's so funny how life works, how it brought me back full circle to reading the Bible, to meeting women, because I'm calling in community, like-minded community, to meeting groups of women that center their life around God. And I'm a spiritual girly, still am a spiritual girly, but I grew up, went to a Catholic school, and I was very jaded about religion, about the Bible. I wouldn't call it God, I would call it the universe, and I call it both. But the fact that I'm coming back almost to my roots, coming back to my relationship with God, has been very full circle, interesting, and something that I'm not going to fight anymore. Because who I'm growing to become is who I'm growing to become. And even though I'm in love with past versions of myself, like, God, I loved my life before that. Who's to say that I can't have that same thing now? Because I've convinced myself for some reason I cannot. And as a result, my 3D is reflecting that. I feel like I've lost everything. My business, myself, my relationship with Source. I was too in the thick of it with what was tangible instead of going inside and doing the root work so I could usher in this new timeline. I don't know. I hope this helps. Like and follow for more.